Welcome to Behind the Lectern. Since 2006, your host, Jeff Klein, has been working with speakers at all levels. From beginners to Toastmasters International Award winners. From experts to National Speaker Association Hall of Famers. In each episode, Jeff introduces you to some of these speakers as you learn about their speaker journey, how they got started, where they came from, where they're going, and more. Take the lessons they have learned on their way to help you with your own path to make speaking work for you. Let's get started.
Welcome, everybody. Jeff Klein here for another episode of Behind the Lectern. I'm thrilled to have Pamela Cowan here with me today. Pamela has an interesting speaker journey you'll have fun hearing about, learning about, and we're just kind of off to the races. We met through Potapalooza or through Speakers Playhouse, rather.
Speakers Playhouse.
Speakers Playhouse, okay. Which Potapalooza was sprung off from that. So
Right.
I don't know. Did you participate in Potapalooza at all?
No, I didn't. I plan on being on the next one, though.
It was a pretty great event for those of you listening. Well, Potapalooza was a one-day opportunity for people to be guests on multiple podcasts and for podcasters to get multiple guests, multiple shows recorded in the same day, and for people to learn about podcasting. So we had a general room where there were speakers. We had 20 or 25 podcasters who were recording shows throughout the day. And so you would go from a general session to, oh, I'm on at 10:30 with so-and-so, or 11:30 with so-and-so. And some people did one or two interviews. I did 4, and I had made appointments for 2 more after the fact. So
Nice.
and even though I have this podcast, in the next Potapalooza, I will again be there to be a guest on multiple shows. I am not in need of finding guests to put on the show because I keep meeting wonderful people like you through Speakers Playhouse, and we have new people coming to Speaker Co-op every week, and most of them are going to be on the podcast as well. So I'm recording 2 a week now.
Cool.
I did 3 last week, but trying to stick with 2 a week, and then we'll be releasing 1 a week, so that way I've got a library.
Mm-hmm.
And if I have to skip a week recording, then it's all okay.
That's right.
So are you doing a podcast?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. I'm in the process of, I keep coming across people, and I know what I'm envisioning for it is in the area of having people tell their resilience story.
Yeah.
Yeah. The stories of, the experiences that they've gone through that have had them grow and to build resilience. I put the emphasis on build resilience because it's not something that you just snap your finger and you're resilient. I find it's one of those things that you kind of have to go through the experience, and actually much the same as building your house. You actually have to put in the work to build your house. Same thing with resilience.
Makes sense. Now, your background's in health and wellness, or is it health and safety?
Health and safety, but with the emphasis on the psychological safety.
Okay.
But I've just recently finished off some training in the area of the brain and the mind sciences. So I'm adding that into the repertoire as well.
Wow.
In order to bring the brain into business and into life.
So that was your job once upon a time in corporate, was
Yes.
health and all that stuff.
Health and safety, yes, too.
Yeah. Okay.
Basically, make sure that you go home with all your fingers and toes, right?
There's got to be a joke there about health and safety in Canada versus health and safety in the U.S. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what it is, but it seems like there should be one. So when did speaking show up for you as a way to, or go ahead, just when did speaking show up?
For me, about 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, they eliminated my position, but that was okay. I
Oh,
felt like
that's always nice.
yeah, it is. And I felt as though I was actually walking through the hall saying, how I know I'm meant to contribute to something so much more than what I'm contributing here. So is there a way? How do I get out of here? What's the right door, the right window? Do I have to tunnel through the fire separation?
Yeah.
And the next day I was thinking along the same lines on my little hallway walk, and I was like, well, maybe I should just ask them to lay me off for this summer. I was working in education at the time, and all the teachers were going to be on their vacation, and so it's like, well, I don't have too many summer projects lined up. Maybe they could lay me off, and I could get something going and see where I'm at the end of this summer, and whether or not I come back, right? And so, but there was some divine intervention in it, in that I went into my boss's office and said, I was going to do something in a particular way. I don't think that matters, he says. We have a meeting with HR. And I'm like, what did I do now?
Yeah.
Right? And sure enough, we walk into that office and he says, reads off the script, right? That we have decided to eliminate your position, and, we appreciate your dedicated 10 years of service to us, and this in no way reflects your performance and your dedication. And he got up and he walked out, and I turned white. When you're asking, when you're praying for something, and all of a sudden you get your answer, and you get it right quick.
Wow.
Sometimes it's a shock. And I was at home trying to figure out, well, what's my next move?
Yeah, what do I do when I grow up? Or
whatever. Yeah, and I caught this summit. Never even been to a summit. Didn't even know what a summit was.
Yeah.
That was done by Kimberly Crow.
Okay. Yeah.
Her Entrepreneurs Rocket Fuel. And she was going on and talking about how don't wait to start speaking and sharing your gifts with people until you have the right cell phone and you have the right haircut. Like, don't wait. And I'm just like, okay. And she says, yes. And the next event is this event, and it starts on Friday. I'm like, okay, I guess I have to go to the next event on Friday. And so that just started the journey as far as, in that association. And
that's great.
Yeah. And I actually, about 6 months ago, actually spoke at her summit. And that was such an honor to be a part of the Women in Business.
I spoke there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, there was 5,000 people that registered for that. And then the media got a hold of it.
Was that the one-day one, or was that the one
it was the one-day one.
Okay, yeah, I was on that
one
as well.
The media got a hold of it. And we were told that the media got a hold of it. And here's the Google page that you Google. And there were more than 10 Google pages of different media that were basically reporting on this. And I ended up getting that huge knot in my stomach of, I didn't think I'd be talking in front of all these people. But I did it. So
nice.
Yeah.
And you got some clients from it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which is the whole point, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. But more than anything, it was the experience of just getting out there and speaking. Even though you've got that knot in your stomach of there was a time when I was first speaking, because I worked in corporate training, and they'd want me to talk in front of, all these, different people within the organization. And I made it a policy: never eat before you speak, right? because that knot in your stomach, you don't want to have it that you're feeding it anything, right?
Okay. Yeah, that was your nervous energy.
That's right.
Way to deal with that. Okay, very cool. Yeah, that's important. Yeah, and I always ask people when I'm hosting a speaker, do you eat before or after you speak? Because some people eat before, and some people like you eat after, and we always make sure we keep them a hot meal if they're eating after, because there's nothing worse than getting done with a great speech and sitting down to cold food.
No, exactly.
That's supposed to be hot, right?
Yeah.
That's so funny. So, had you been doing training and stuff with your corporate jobs and your education job? So speaking wasn't new to you. The act of speaking wasn't new.
No.
But speaking about your own content was definitely a new thing.
Oh, yes, that was, and especially being that what I was having to come up with before, I kind of knew my audience. So I kind of knew what did I need to talk about?
Yeah.
Then when the world, so to speak, becomes your audience, you're kind of like, what do I talk about? Do I even have?
You discovered that you talk about something for people that you can help.
Exactly.
You knew it was entrepreneurs because of and women entrepreneurs, and you had stuff to talk to them about. What was it you did for your first talk?
I talked about burnout.
Burnout, okay.
Yes, and I still do talk about burnout because
I knew that. I was just checking in to see.
So prevalent in our world today.
Oh yeah,
I think it has been for a while, but I think more than ever, we're more recognizing it now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think nowadays it's not just, it's everything, every extreme now in 2022. People are willing to go to the extreme.
Yeah.
And there's still people who aren't, but if it's and people are talking about stuff more. Because there's more places to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
Yeah, so I find that that's definitely the case. So what kind of thing? So how many? So have you really only done a few or a handful, relatively, of talks about your content? Since you've only been doing it a few months.
Yeah, I started talking about it actually last summer.
Okay.
And my first summit, I got there, and there was like 2 people, because they were having a challenge getting through the meetup door. Yeah. And so, but you know what? Hey, that's 2 people more than I have to practice with every day.
There you go.
So, it's just one more opportunity to practice and share what you have.
Absolutely. And I, and obviously when, those people, that they're not thinking of it as a rehearsal.
No.
Because they're there for the content and you're there to deliver it. So
exactly.
So you get to do some repetition, but it's not like coming to a preview of a play or something like that, or a restaurant where they're still working out. Well, where they're working out the kinks, but people don't know when you have a kink when you're speaking. Well, most of the time they don't know, right? No. We don't. We're supposed to make sure they don't know that we had a hiccup, and because that's something people who get nervous forget, is the audience has no idea what you're going to say next.
Yeah, you're just like the duck floating on top of the water.
Yeah.
You're just floating there and paddling like mad underneath.
Well, and whatever you do next, though, is right.
Yeah, exactly.
If you forget 2 pages of content, you're the only one who knows.
One of the greatest skills to have, I find, for speaking is improv.
Nice. Yep.
Always accept the information.
Yeah. Yes, and have you actually taken a class on improv?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Yes, I have. And I also did drama in school, but I wanted to brush up on those skills.
Sure.
So I did it. I did an improv class, and
recently.
Just actually last summer.
Very cool.
Yeah. It was nice to refresh those skills again.
Mm-hmm.
Where somebody's just, okay, here's your prop. Now figure something out. And
what was it at the university, or was it
no, it was at a she teaches people to act, and she represents them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And actually, and also does a lot of productions herself. And way back in like 2007, I actually acted. I was
nice.
Extra, because I thought that was my new fun thing to do, right?
There you go. It is fun. I mean, my degree is in theater, and I worked in the movie business for 15, 20 years, so behind the camera.
Yeah.
And then only recently I have started playing. I started doing some acting myself. So now, so the last 5 years or so, I've been in front of the camera half a dozen times for fun, and gotten paid a little bit. But the idea is that I'm not taking it too seriously. So I'm hoping that the person who wants to come in the room is to be in the audience, and that I hadn't double booked an appointment or something, but because you never know. Welcome, Charlotte. Are you here to be in our live studio audience? Or did I miss a meeting?
I guess I will be quite a percentage of it.
Yes. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss an appointment.
No.
Oh, wonderful. Well, welcome. We're having a nice. We just started talking about improv. So, Pamela, let's talk about some of the things that improv helped you with, like some specific things.
Well, most specifically, I got a lot of practice with my husband when he had dementia.
Oh my.
Yeah. You never knew what was gonna be the day, but where his mind would be. And so it became a real fun game, actually, of kind of improv, as far as always accept what he says and just go from there.
Yeah, I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Well, actually, it was actually a pleasure to look after him.
Oh, sure. I understand that.
Yeah.
But it's a journey, that's for sure.
Yeah. And so that's why part of the audience that I'm wanting to serve with my burnout course is caregivers.
That's wonderful. That's an amazing, that is such an underserved community of people.
Yeah. And having been a caregiver, I feel that it's an opportunity for me to kind of share with them the minefield.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody prepares you for it, but all too often, especially nowadays, it happens. It's the one job that you don't apply for.
Oh yes, yeah, for sure. Well, and my dad of blessed memory, he worked with caregivers as part of his at the end of his social work career. He worked with seniors, and he worked with nurses and staff at senior centers and things like that.
Yeah.
So the caregivers who did make a choice, and some that again, some, as we talked about, that didn't. He told me that he had one pair of a mother-daughter clients. One was 80 and one was 100, and and they both were in the same senior center together, and they took care of each other, and they he helped them. But that's the caregiver thing is huge. We have an organization based here in Dallas called Educare that has an annual symposium.
Okay.
Caregiver. It's a one-day caregiver symposium.
Yeah.
That's specifically all about that.
Well, that's good, because when my husband was alive, they didn't have anything like that.
Yeah.
At least not local.
Right.
And
Not that you could find. Well, I
no.
will, and on the networking note, I will introduce you to the folks who do that, so that
Okay, that'd be good.
that's a potential speaking opportunity for you.
Yeah, that would be really good. Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah.
And Charlotte, feel free, if you have a question, feel free to hop in and ask your question.
No questions yet.
Okay. we're still working out some of the getting used to having the folks in the audience and all that, but I love being able to extend the conversation. So what kind of goals do you have for speaking as far as your business goes, Pamela?
Well, my goals are to have it that I'm speaking, both speak to sell and paid to speak.
Okay.
I'm wanting to be on both sides of the equation, because I feel as though I have a lot of experience in the area of business. And so there's events that are happening like thousands every day. And so, my mission to bring the brain into business and into people's lives, they need to hear what I know.
Yeah. I think you're on the right track with that strategy, going both ways.
And as I talk to people about the brain and the mind sciences, a lot of times it's almost like they don't know really what to say, because that's always been something that, well, that's what scientists and real professional, like medical professionals, they know about the brain. That's for neuroscientists. And and yet I've worked with neuroscientists and professors who want everything they shared with me came right out of their lab, and they want me to share it with the world. Yeah,
that's wonderful. Yeah. What so again, I'm sure you know this, but there are, I'll say that, I'll put this out there for our listeners. There are all kinds of hospital and medical associations that have conferences that need topics like yours, and some of them are broken up by size. So there's like a small hospital association and a medium, I think there's a medium, I don't know the exact numbers, but a medium hospital association, based on the size of the hospital. And I know I know here in Texas, there's a rural hospital association.
Okay.
And it may be that it's an association for rural hospital administrators, but there's all kinds of those kind of groups that have events, have conferences, whether they're virtual or in person, and they're hungry for the kind of content you're talking about.
Yeah.
There's the Visiting Nurses Association here in the States. I don't know if they're international or not, but I know that most associations have if there's an American version of it, there's a Canadian version as well.
Yeah, that's certainly right. That's right.
And of course, hospice is bigger and bigger nowadays, and expanding. I learned a couple years ago that there were people who went into hospice temporarily, which I had no idea that happened. With you think of end of life when you hear the term hospice.
Well, the thing is, that is temporary, and then you walk through the door.
But I mean, there's a hospice where the patient comes in and leaves hospice alive. So I was surprised to learn about that. And there's all kinds of rehab facilities, and then again, people like you that wind up having to take care of their life partner or their family member. And there's again more and more groups and conferences and websites and Facebook groups and all that for those folks. So tons of places for you to get in front of the audience and sell your coaching, and then other opportunities where they're looking to pay a speaker to come and present. Where are you at on your book on all of this?
Which book are you talking about? I actually
have you written one, or are you working on one?
The first one I'm working on and just finishing it is called The First Gift of Resilience.
Nice.
Then there's the business toolbox to build resilience, the scientific toolbox to build resilience, the spiritual toolbox to build resilience.
Very smart.
And then the financial toolbox to build resilience, because it isn't, we live in a very physical world. So I don't think that we can only just be dealing with what's inside of our minds. We need to establish resilience in our world. And so taking it from the mind and applying it into various aspects of our lives and the world that we live in is what each toolbox is designed to do.
Wow, that's powerful.
Thank you.
So let's share with us what, a tip or two on how to be resilient, not just talk about it.
Okay, so when I first started this journey, it was like before COVID even hit. It was before, I just had this feeling that there was a change that was coming. And I would go to networking meetings and I would say, I work in change management. And I'd be like, think of the storms that are coming. And there's big change and we need to prepare for the change. But yet, did I know exactly what the change was going to be? No, never in my wildest imaginations would I have thought.
Yeah, no kidding. Who could have? Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But the thing is that one word called resilience stuck out for me. And a friend and I, we went to Jasper, which is not too far away from where I live. And when we went there is a stone. It's actually a fossil called amylite. And when I did some research on amylite are very, very resilient in that they were creatures called amylite. And back in the prehistoric times, where I live was all covered in water. And they were almost like a snail creature, where they would have almost like a shell. And there were other animals in the sea that would try to attack them. And so to keep themselves protected, they would actually burrow into their shell, that when you look at the shell, it looks very similar to your brain. Yeah. And the thing is that there's a lot of First Nations here who feel as though that this is a very sacred stone. It's only available here in Alberta. And so when I looked at resilience, though, it was like, okay, so I have resilience and I have this fossil called amylite. And I kind of felt like it was like, okay, so what's the problem that this solves? So it was like that reverse, that mathematical question, the algebraic question of solve for X. We know what X is, resilience. But what is the opposite of resilience? And it took me a good year. And I was doing market research with people thinking, well, yeah, it has something to do with purpose. And it has, and I feel as though that I was getting little bits and pieces of the equation. And now I've been able to put together what I call the blueprint to build resilience. And what the problem is that resilience solves is burnout. And burnout can happen in a lot of different areas of our lives because of the things that are going on in our lives. So when I did a survey recently, and 95% of the people thought that burnout was only because of poor work-life balance. Well, it's a lot more than that.
Yeah.
No,
sure.
It's far more than that.
You can be doing everything right and still get burned out because you're doing too much, or you're not in balance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's actually more than that. It's actually that there's a saying that I came across, a quote, that it's actually the accumulation of hundreds and thousands of tiny disappointments, each only noticeable on their own.
Mm.
And the way that it happens is the symptoms of it are, firstly, you end up with health, like physical symptoms of chronic exhaustion, forgetfulness, impaired concentration, and yet chest pain, palpitations, shortness of breath, dizziness, fainting, and headache, anxiety, depression, and anger. Now, anger, coming from where I come from and corporately, well, that's a recipe for workplace violence. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure, I can see that.
Because of the fact that there's unmet expectations. And like one story that I recently heard about where the hospital staff have access to the gym facilities at the university. They're allowed to park in this parking area where they don't have to pay for parking, right? It's a perk for employment at working with the hospital because we want for them to be healthy and to have that stress relief and to keep themselves healthy. Go ahead, use the gym, no cost, free parking. Overnight, all the signs changed, and now the parking costs money.
Oh.
Yeah, see? Even Jeff is upset about it.
That's crazy.
The thing is that, imagine the outrage, the frustration of this change that all of a sudden happens. You weren't anticipating it. And so now, well, does that include me? And where do I go to park? And how much is it? And can I get a monthly pass? And do I even want to pay for my parking?
Right. Yeah. Do I take an Uber? Do I take a bus? I mean.
And so then you end up with the emotional side of the burnout, which comes into the feelings of helplessness, trapped, defeated. You start detaching yourselves from people, feeling alone. You don't return phone calls or emails, or you regularly come in late. You have a lack of motivation, increased cynicism. That is one of the very key symptoms emotionally, is the amount of cynicism.
But I find for me, it has to do with, I know I'm getting up against it when I keep wanting to take naps instead of working. Yep. That's a big one for me. Pardon my one of my roommates here. She's just all over today.
She's just wanting part of the attention.
Yes, there is that.
So
at any rate,
when I started really looking into burnout, I realized that, and some from even my own market research, the people I talked about a loss of motivation, where they feel like everything just gets thrown at them, that there's even too many opportunities. And so they have to sort through and prioritize the lack of money and time. So then you're getting into your financial burnout. And that to be successful, there's this belief I have to sacrifice my priorities. So my family, what do I got to trade off in order to be successful? And the distractions, very lot of sense of feeling like there's getting to be more and more ADHD, where I can't stay focused for a long period of time. So most people, though, when I did the research, was that, okay, well, we're just going to meditate more. We're going to breathe. Increase your support system. I want nothing to do with people, and you want me to be reaching out to people to support me, right? Change your diet. Just
Yeah, that's an easy one.
Different, right? And so really, what I've come to realize, and it's part of the blueprint, is to help people to connect to purpose. They've lost sight of, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And what is my purpose in this? As well as also helping them to increase productivity by using and utilizing the subconscious. And when I talk about that, there's a tool that I teach about that's called automaticity. Dr. John Bark is the one that has written extensively about what automaticity is. But what automaticity is, Jeff, let me ask you, the last time that you drove your car, did you think about it?
Oh, no, it's autopilot.
Yes, exactly. So how would you like to have it that the things in your life that you want to change, or the things that you find that are difficult to do, we could put on autopilot, so you're not even thinking about them. You just automatically do it. So
that sounds attractive, Pamela.
Yeah, that idea of getting up and doing your push-ups and sit-ups, how about if we turn that on automatic, so that you just get up and you do it instead of the resistance? And, if we could have that with even the things in the workplace that people resist, and being able to increase their productivity at the same time. But then the last part of the blueprint is the aspect of elevating the emotional engagement. The reason why it is that we're in burnout is because of the fact that we're not encouraged to use emotional intelligence in most of the areas of our lives.
Yeah, no, we're not challenged, for sure.
No, and especially at work, what are we supposed to do with emotions?
We're not supposed to. It's in a workplace. You're not supposed to be sharing them with your coworkers.
That's right. But yet, where does your creativity come from?
Your heart. Yeah, your emotions, for sure. Yeah.
Emotional part of your mind, your brain. So we want to encourage that emotional engagement. And so that is part of the pillars of the blueprint. So when you finish off, you then have the ability to adapt, resolve, and emerge through change and things that the things that are unexpected, that go against our expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty good stuff.
Thank you.
So how do we get more Pamela?
Well, I have a gift actually for your audience. It is the simple toolbox to build resilience. And how do I get it to you? Do I put it in the chat, or?
That'll work.
Okay.
And we'll put it in the show notes.
Okay.
I can spell resilience, and there it is. I think
too.
That's right.
I spelled it for you.
There you go.
The link.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Yeah, I misspelled it, of course. So what do people, when they go there, they just share some information with you, and they get the simple toolbox to build resilience?
Yeah. Now the toolbox, it's not just one tool. You're given the ebook, which is the first gift of resilience. I'm not going to tell you what the gift is. You have to get the book.
Okay.
And then then there's also the free masterclass, where I go into more detail on burnout and an explanation of the blueprint.
Wonderful.
And then there's a number of other tools. I have about 50 tools in my toolbox.
Nice. Well, and those of you who are listening, that's the simple toolbox to build resilience, and we'll have the link for you. But also remember to share this episode, and that maybe even that link, with somebody in in healthcare, in corporate management, in those areas where we know there are care. Maybe your friend who's taking care of their spouse or their family member who is a caregiver. They're just not, and it's getting better, but up till now, caregivers have been very underserved as a group. Because we didn't used to think of them as a group.
No. When I was a caregiver, there were no resources, and it was like, it was a labor of love, absolutely. But the thing is that there were no resources, and it was just like, well, how do I know what to do? How do I know? And the thing is that there was very little support, even though there was home care that was coming in during the day so I could work my job. But the rules were so rigid at first. Well, we can do his laundry, but we can't do yours. Well, who do you think is doing your job when you're not here?
Yeah.
And so, there's no pay, there's no compensation. The only compensation is that you will have a much deeper love for that person because you've served them.
Yeah. Now, do you, in your work, do you also help connect people to resources? Like, because there are and I know we're in two different countries, but here in the States we have programs for caregivers now, where through disability or Social Security, where they can get wages as a caregiver, and then of course we also have family and medical leave legislation where people can take time off work and all that kind of stuff. Do you help with some of those kind of resource areas too? Okay.
Yes, as well as also thinking about and the other part of it is in the advocacy, learning how to advocate for that person.
Oh yeah, and you have to be your own caseworker a lot of times.
Yeah, which is unfortunate, really.
Yeah, you're right.
Because you're not paid, you're not trained, and yet you're the one who's making life and death decisions for this person. There was a number of times we'd be in with the doctor and the doctor would prescribe something and I'd be like, well, what about this? And I would just ask the dumb question.
Yeah.
Just to get the doctor to stop and think, or the doctor would write a prescription for something. And then the pharmacist is like, well, I don't know that we can do that. What do you think? And you're just like,
well, yeah, I don't have enough information. Yeah.
I mean, I had a lot of people after my husband passed away who told me I should write to the College of Physicians and Surgeons and get my doctorate because I had the amount of education almost that a doctor.
You got all the hours. Yeah.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Absolutely.
That's crazy. And okay, so also just what is your website?
Basically, I use a lot of different landing pages.
Okay.
So the best way to get in touch with me is through that Build Resilience, that toolbox. And one of the things one of the tools is also a one-on-one consultation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. So it's not.
There is an email to reach out.
Yeah. What is an email so that people can reach out if they want more than the toolbox already, or they want to book you to speak or something like that? We want to give them a quick and easy way to reach you.
Okay. So that is the best email to reach me.
Okay. Super.
Yeah.
So and can I share that website?
Yes.
Okay. So the website, folks, is buildresilience.ca. And if it's still under construction, email Pamela Cowan at buildresilience.ca if the site's still under construction to reach Pamela. Because you want her to come speak to your group or your convention. And of course, this has been Well, let me see, Charlotte, do you have any questions for Pamela before we sign off?
No, very
Okay.
interesting, Pamela.
So glad you were here to be in our studio audience. Thank you for that. Yes.
I think you have a real sector, and you need. I suspect you need someone to figure out how to put it into motion. And guess who I'm going to talk about? Yeah, Jeff.
There you go. I'll take that that is what we do here at speakercoop.com is help people with get out there and get in front of the audiences that they want to be in front of. So
Jeff, can I ask you one question? Do we still have time?
Sure.
Okay. So I used to make a pretty good living out of doing my training. I train people to do their own investing in the stock market in 10 minutes a day, and then throw in a half hour somewhere along the week to just tune things up. So I historically have way outperformed most of the mutual fund managers and the financial planners. But there are so many people out there who have paid a lot of money to make really impressive, glitzy, hour-long presentations to enroll people in looking at their work. Some of them, I suspect, haven't been doing it for more than a few months. But Jeff, my real challenge is, how do I distinguish myself out there among the thousands of people who want to take money to teach you how to invest?
Charlotte, I think the main answer is one of the first things we start with, and that is to find a niche audience to start with. Pick a group of people, whether it's, retired women, or women in business, or men about to retire, or new dads, or whatever the case may be, and go after one niche first, conquer that niche, and then go after another one.
It's your niche, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Scratch your niche. Because part of identifying that niche, like we've been talking with Pamela about, caregivers and that group is it's that they self-identify and put themselves into groups. So find niches that have identified themselves and put themselves into groups and hang out together. And that's the kind of work I can help you with. We here at Speaker Co-op can help you do that work, and because you don't have to stand out to everybody. If you can stand out to a niche like we're talking about, we're still talking about millions of people.
Mm-hmm.
And you become their champion, and then they'll tell more people about you, and then you go after another group. And
the niches.
Yes, exactly.
And, I kind of shied away from really, just focus on burnout. I'm like, are you kidding? How many people have burnout? Right? But really, when I started looking at it, it's like all kinds of people suffer from burnout.
You bet.
They have in the past, and I'm coming across more and more people that I'm calling serial burnouts. They keep getting themselves into the same situation.
Yeah.
Cyclical.
Makes sense. Absolutely.
Yeah. And who's the biggest serial burnout of all?
I'm going to say doctors, or you're going to say you yourself.
Me.
Yeah.
Me.
Okay.
Yeah, because I had 4 children.
Find your niche, right? Yeah.
And I was also running 5 businesses as well while having these children. Okay. By the time I shut down the businesses, I did not want for the phone to ring, because every time the phone rang, it was something else for me to do. But did I learn my lesson? No. I then, my husband got sick, and I had a job that was very demanding during that same time of where we had like 110,000 clients and 14,000 employees. We were one of the we're about the fourth largest employer in that sector in Canada.
Wow.
Yeah. And then when my husband passed away, did I slow down and take a rest? And no, I started
Doesn't sound like it.
I started working in the financial industry. And so
Oh, wow. Well,
Jeff?
yes,
I've
ma'am.
got one more question that popped up when you had get a moment.
Sure.
You have an answer for her, it sounded like.
Go ahead.
Okay. There are so many financial advisors out there now that it's almost impossible to talk to a group that doesn't have, 1 out of 5 of it seems, as financial advisors. So I'm stepping on a lot of toes. I've got people who are just going to say, she does it wrong and, discount me. Or how do I handle that question of every group I talk to already has financial advisors?
You create a topic that's agnostic as far as financial advisors. In other words, you present a topic that does not, number one, threaten them or make people defend them to you, because you're presenting something that you help with that does not interfere with them selling life insurance or selling whatever it is they're selling. What you sell is a bonus. It's not a competitor.
Interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's the perfect way to look at it.
Mm-hmm. And that's the way you'll be able to get into those groups. Because like you said, every Rotary, every networking group has financial people. You need to be able to go in and not be competing with them. You need to be able to go in and actually, part of your talk is, if you haven't hired one of these people, you need to hire them. And then I can teach you this other stuff that'll make you a better customer for them, or whatever the case may be.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's why I stopped in.
I'm glad you did, and I hope you'll stick around for a few minutes as we wrap up. Pamela, any final words for our audience on resilience?
Yes. And that is that really, if I were to sum up resilience in one word, it's the word rest. Because rest breaks down to R, which stands for replenish, meaning to multiply and replenish. There is no word in the dictionary that says is just plain plenish, which means that you already have everything that you need. You just need to restock it and keep yourself replenished.
Okay.
The E stands for emotional need, and to acknowledge and to meet your emotional need. The S is for silence. The world that we live in is a very noisy place.
Yep.
And our brain needs the time to have that silence. When there's too much happening, it's harder for the brain to take it all in and absorb it all, especially being that you have to understand the brain is dealing with 6 degrees of time. Not 3 like what we understand.
Yeah.
Because there's the past, the present, the future. And then there's the hidden past, the hidden future, and the hidden present. The stuff that we don't see, that your brain is already trying to absorb and take in and process. So I'm almost challenging you to reconsider the idea of even a 15-minute break. Maybe it's more in the aspect of, instead of just taking that 15-minute break, how about you find something that puts you into flow? Something
Nice.
that you enjoy doing, something that causes you to lose all aspect of time and place, where you just feel at peace and at one with that activity. T is for true. And true to your purpose, there are the 2 best days of your life. The day you were born and the day that you realize and can stand true in your purpose. And that's what I hope I get the opportunity to do, is to help you to find what that purpose is. And I have a very scientific deep dive on finding out what that is.
That's wonderful, Pamela. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Wise words from Pamela Cowan. Thank you very much for being here. We had a great, we had our guest, Charlotte Hudgen, in the live studio audience. Thank you for being here, Charlotte.
Yay.
And that is this episode of Behind the Lectern. So we hope that you all will pass this on to the people who need to hear it and share with us, join us for the next episode after this one. Jeff Klein signing off for Behind the Lectern.
Thanks for joining us on Behind the Lectern. You can find an archive of our episodes at behindthelectern.com. You can also access useful speaking information at speakercoop.com/education. Join us next time for another great speaker journey with an expert and our host, Jeff Klein. We'll catch you next time.